Welcome to the Thunder Cloud. Tonight we are doing an early birdie special to get this out of the way so I can listen to music at a very loud rate and potentially get a little bit of cleaning in. Just the one stupid cat was being a bit loud there, Bella. Yeah, I couldn't handle it, so I hung up the fucking phone and decided I'd stream with my good pal Sage over here. Anyways, let's get right to it. Let's get to the brass taxes. And we'll start off with the big news. There's obviously like some real big news today, and then we'll basically we'll siphon through all the bullshit too. So unless you live under a rock, the Texans have picked up David Montgomery from the Lions in exchange for offensive lineman Juice Scruggs, as well as a sixth and a seventh round draft pick in, or no, it's a fourth. Oh, I missed draft pick when I was reading this. I missed a draft pick. Looks like the Texans are sending a fourth rounder in there. Let me just see here. Okay, because this is changing things up a little bit. This is why I hate how fuck some of these articles are like. In one article it says one thing, and one and it's the same fucking site. Okay, it's what, a 2026. I gotta get the draft picks right. This is fucking annoying. Give me a second. I don't like how they're typing. Should have just brought this shit up in fucking AI overview. Sons of bitches. It shouldn't be that hard to just show what a fucking swap looks like here instead of making me fucking have to fucking read. Okay. So I got the trade a little bit wrong. I think now, wow, this is gonna change my opinion. So unless I'm wrong, it appears okay. I had the trade a little bit wrong there. The Lions are getting rid of David Montgomery to the Houston Texans for a fourth, seventh. That's from a seventh rounder next year from Houston, as well as Juice Scruggs. The Lions just got ripped like they didn't get ripped off. I mean, I think they ripped off the fucking Texans. To be honest with you, I mean, I get that you're getting David Montgomery, but you can very well get a new David Montgomery making like $8 million less in a draft if you use a fourth rounder. So I'm a little perplexed. Now, I was looking at the grades of this Juice Scruggs guy, and his grades suck. I mean, he had a 45 rating for his PFF grade last year. Not that that's the end of the world. His pass block was 58% or 58, so that's almost considered average in the PFF world. He was previously a second rounder, so perhaps there's some untapped upside that Detroit can unleash. Still has 2 years left, so I mean you never know. Um, but the fourth round pick is just kind of huge to give up in my opinion. I mean, David Montgomery's a good back, but he's going to be 29 years old next year, and I mean, he'll definitely have a fantasy boost because he won't be sharing the rock with Jameer Gibbs, so he probably does get close to 1,000 yards next year, and probably going to have a pretty good year. The only thing I think that could be a step back for him is going to be he's been playing with a good offensive line for years now, and like Houston didn't just trade one offensive lineman today; they traded two. We'll get into the Titus Howard trade here in a second. So it's kind of weird that like I can see a regression in yards per attempt. Like last year, 4.5. With Detroit, he was always pretty solid, but with Chicago, he wasn't always very solid. Like he had 2 years under four yards per carry, and was always above 4.2 with Detroit. So I think some of that is the offensive line. I think he's a good back. He definitely broke my heart in the season when he ran and didn't take a knee like he should have, like a decent human being, just ran up the score and effectively effectively cost me for a few weeks there. I just find it interesting because here's the other trade that that the Texans made, and this was their right tackle, 29 years old, had a 63 grade last year, 77 against for the pass block grade. So that's Titus Howard, and he was traded to the Cleveland Browns, who I think have like an entire O-line to replace this offseason. They did get a fifth rounder back. It's just, what are the odds that you're going to this year use your fifth rounder and bring in a guy that's going to be able to start? Not likely. Even if you draft a right tackle, left tackle, whatever, in the first two rounds, what are the odds they're going to start? So I'm not necessarily understanding the direction of Houston. Their offensive line's been a problem, so let's just trade pieces from the offensive line, and hopefully that'll make us better. I'm not sure. Sage, I know you're plugged in with the Houston Texans. What do you think of the moves that they've made today? The Browns did sign Titus Howard to a 3-year, $63 million extension after the trade was made. So it's a good start for the Browns to rebuilding their offensive line. Let's hope Sage isn't playing Run Elite and he actually can hear us. Sage, can you hear us? What do you think about Houston's two trades today? Did they get better or did they get worse? I asked you, Houston, do you think they got better or worse today? Short term and long term. Short term, probably better. The only thing I would argue is, are they? Well, they do have Joe Mixon. They've got Joe Mixon, Woody Marks. Why can't you just use your fourth round pick on a running back though? That's my whole thing. Is why can't you just use your fourth round pick and you'll probably get someone better. You're not going to have to pay him like $8 million a year, right, for a 2-year deal. Not that eight's like the end of the world, but I don't think. I think even if you take a seventh rounder, if you take a running back in the seventh round, if you actually build up your offensive line, you're gonna actually be able to have a guy that can run. I mean, the Packers had fucking two undrafted guys that are pretty good running backs on their roster, and they weren't even drafted. So this day and age, I don't really think you need to be fucking around. I don't know. I wouldn't be trading picks for running backs. I think they're like a dime a dozen. They're so easy to get this day and age. I don't even necessarily think they get better short term, but I mean, they're definitely improved at running back. They've definitely taken a hit at offensive line. I'm not saying Juice Scruggs is a big loss because he's a second rounder who hasn't panned, but there might be upside there. You watch, he'll probably go to Detroit and do great. And Titus Howard, definitely right tackle that's pretty good, average, slightly above average for a right tackle. I mean, that's not an easy piece to replace as well. But yeah, definitely better running back. Lost a bit of assets, so look for them to cut Joe Mixon, I would certainly say. And that's a good point. Montgomery does benefit from Gibbs because he's the change of pace back. And, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs sets the tone there. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of trading for running backs. I think if you're a fantasy person, yeah, you're going to look at David Montgomery as a guy in the 20s to draft next year, and you can feel better about him because Jahmyr Gibbs isn't blocking him out and taking, 70% of the snaps away from him, honestly. He's a good back. He's not that number one back, but he'll probably be he'll probably get a pretty good workload next year, I would assume. Like this year, he only had 158 carries. Year before, 185 carries. When he's had more than 220 carries in his career, that's when his yards per attempt went down to 3.8 and 3.7 and 4.3. So that would be my concern. Is I think you need to find another splashy back to pair him with. I don't think Woody Marks is more than just a third down back. I don't think he's that guy that you need to pair him with. I think you would need to add some sort of a speedster to the fold, honestly. Good back. Kind of, I'm not going to lie. I mean, different players, but David Montgomery, kind of like a better version of Jamal Williams, I would say. He's going to get you touchdowns. He's going to get you, pretty good short yardage guy, can receive a bit too. Like, I think he's a solid back, but to me, he's a poor man Jamal Williams, who, ironically enough, started with the Packers, went to Detroit. In this case, started with Chicago and then went to Detroit. So, kind of a good little NFC North comparison there. But yeah, I really think if the Texans don't work on their offensive line, though, they're going to be basically up the creek without a fucking paddle. And I know Sage is hoping for that. All right, now we're going to get to the news and notes. Unless, Sage, was there anything else you wanted to chime in there about your beloved Houston Texans before we move to the next shit? And none of the other news are going to be very, very big. Sage says, fuck the Texans, respectfully. All right. Well, let's get right to it. So the Chiefs released offensive tackle Jawan Taylor. In 2023, he was signed to a 4-year, $80 million deal. Looks like this will free up $20 million for the Chiefs, who are trying to get below the $301.6 million salary cap, if my memory is correct. I believe, is that the guy that always jumps off sides for the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm pretty sure that's the guy there. Used to drive me nuts. Kind of a piece of shit news here. The Bengals have signed Dalton Risner to a 1-year, $5 million extension. It's just a depth piece. I mean, potentially he starts. If he's starting, that's probably not a good thing for their interior line. This is kind of an interesting rumor here, and again, this is just a rumor. March 11th is when free agency starts. I don't know when the tampering period starts. Sage, if you want to look that up, that would be great. But the Giants are really linked to the running back market, and the name that a lot of people believe that could be signed would be Kenneth Walker. All I gotta say is that if Kenneth Walker is paired up with Cam Scadaboo, that would be a very big get for the Giants and Jackson Dart, who do have some weapons as well. So that to me would be pretty cool. Now, sticking with the Giants, apparently the odds of the Giants re-signing Wan'Dale Robinson is slim. This is actually something I reported earlier today. This motherfucker is going to sign with the Tennessee Titans as a slot wide receiver. There obviously are ties between Robinson and Brian Dable. Tennessee's got some money to spend. It's a clear need, clear connection. Last 2 years, this motherfucker has over 1,700 yards and 185 receptions. So I think that would be a great guy to add for Cam Ward. We got to talk about the New York Jets. They're going to have, I think, money to spend, and they're going to make a lot of moves this offseason, and they're probably still going to be in the goddamn cellar. I don't know. I've heard this rumor here that not just with the Jets, but the Vikings, that they might pursue Kyler Murray. I'm really interested to see what Kyler Murray gets. Hasn't been quite the same since tearing his ACL in 2022. I still think there's something in the tank, but I do not think Kyler Murray to the Jets would be a good way to go. If I'm Kyler Murray, I think I would rather end up on the Minnesota Vikings, where There's obviously talent, a good offensive minded head coach. I don't think Aaron Glenn and the Jets make any sense, but I mean, if they trade for him, then that's a different story. He doesn't really have any say in who he plays with then. Um, we got the Commanders signing Nick Allegretti to a 2-year deal. Backup last year, might be a starter next year, so that's all we're going to say about that. We got fucking Albert Breer saying that Max Crosby's probably going to get traded this week. The teams listed that have interest, which I assume would be a lot more, would be the Cowboys, Bears, Ravens, Bills, Patriots, Eagles, Rams, and probably damn near everyone else in the NFL. Now, the Raiders are not going to get a Micah Parsons haul of Kenny Clark, a first, and another first, you know. They're definitely not getting a first in next year's draft, where next year's draft is considered a lot better than this year's draft. I could see maybe, you know, a first and a third. Maybe a first and a third for next year's draft for Max Crosby. I have no idea which teams are gonna add him. I hope it's not the Eagles, just because the Eagles always piss me off. But something in my brain says he's gonna end up with the fucking Eagles. Now the Rams would be interesting because I think the Rams would have some nice edge rushers they could trade in return. But again, 29 years old, gonna have to give up a lot. Gonna have to give him probably. Well, I don't even know if you have to give him a new deal actually, because I think he just got that new deal last year, so he probably still has 3 years left under contract. So yeah, I say Max Crosby's definitely getting traded. The Bears actually make a lot of sense, which scares me. Wouldn't surprise me if the Cowboys took a swing on him, but just would kind of be such a lateral move. It's like, oh, you have Micah Parsons, so let's add an older version of him and fucking Max Crosby. I think the Bears are a team to watch out for here, honestly. The Patriots potentially as well, because they both need pass rush. The Bills would be interesting. The Bills already have a pretty good defensive line. I mean, the same is true for the Rams and the Eagles. So we'll keep an eye on it, see what happens. Be nice to see him get the fuck out of the Raiders, though. A few other things. Basically, I don't even know if this is worth reporting some of this shit, but basically, Gary Dulac is saying that the Steelers won't draft a quarterback until round 3 at the earliest. Well, of course not. It's a weak quarterback draft. There's nothing available in the first and second round. Like, there might only be... This is one of those few drafts where you might only see one quarterback go in the first round. Now, I bet you there's a guy that late in that first, so you might see 2 quarterbacks come off the board. But I don't hear this as a very good quarterback draft. So unless you see something that's better than Will Howard, you know, why would you draft? I mean, I think they'll draft someone, maybe round 6 or 7, something like that. Maybe in the mid-rounds, who knows. But I think next year is the year that the Steelers have defined their gem, because Aaron Rodgers will be coming back to play with Mike McCarthy. I don't know. It looks like it's 50-50 that the Colts are going to be able to get a deal with Daniel Jones, and if they don't, it looks like they're going to use the transition tag on him. So, obviously, I think everyone knows Daniel Jones is going back to Indianapolis. It makes too much sense not to. The Commanders released cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore has been garbage the last few years. Did tear his ACL in 2025. Just hasn't been good in coverage. He used to be one of the best corners in the game, honestly. You could just plug him and he would just blanket them, but just has not looked very good. Maybe a 1-year prove-it deal with some incentives changes that. Now, this is a player I kind of do want for the Packers. Now, the priority is the Chargers want to keep Khalil Mack where he's at. 35, still plays pretty good, had 5.5 sacks in 12 games last year. Still good against the run. Would be a perfect guy, I think, for a rotation in Green Bay, especially if we move off of Rashawn Gary, which I would expect that we would. Looks like there's not a huge market right now for Mac Jones. It seems that the 49ers are dead set on obtaining a second or third round pick for him. So I don't really see a world where someone's going to give a second, maybe a third, but I don't know. Like, do you really trust that it was Mac Jones doing good, or is it more of a Kyle Shanahan system sort of thing? Even though they didn't really have all their weapons last year, and he did play good. I mean, I think you probably could make the argument that he played better than Brock Purdy did. I know Sage doesn't like to hear that word Brock Purdy. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but he did look pretty good last year. I'll just put it that way. Other little tidbits here. You got fucking Pat Fryermuth not available for trade. Okay, that's fine. You've got I don't know what, the Tua Tagovailoa or whatever the fuck his name is, kind of being rumored to the Vikings and the Falcons. So we will see. Looks like Jimmy Ward is getting released by the Texans. And I think there's only one more thing. It's something about Devontae Smith. Nah, that's nothing to report. I don't care if he can take the next jump up. Devontae Smith will take the jump up if they trade A.J. Brown, which I do think will happen if they start asking for a realistic return. All right, I think we covered all football news and notes for the day. I feel like Houston is trending in the wrong direction. I think they need to start adding offensive linemen rather than trading for running backs year in and year out. Because I do believe it was just last year that they traded a late round pick for Joe Mixon. And now you're going to move off him and waste more draft capital on David fucking Montgomery. All right, I'm out of here. We'll be back at it tomorrow with hopefully, well, we had some real news today. You know, Houston had a big day. But hopefully we have some more news for teams that we actually give a shit about. But I mean, kind of nice that Detroit doesn't have that running back. I'll tell you that short term. All right, have a good night, guys.